Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. My name is Dr. Haifa Maamar. I am the Executive Director of Emerging Technologies here at Full Sail University. And today we're streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. This is our first episode in 2024. And we're trying to start strong, and we're going to keep that rhythm for the rest of the year. So for Tech Tuesday, for our January edition, we try to look at an industry that I am personally not very I would say not comfortable with, because it's not really something that I know. But then my guest today, he actually really explained that industry to me, and then explained how technology is reshaping that industry. So today we'll be talking about televisionaries, a deep dive into the AI-powered tech reshaping television and global media supply chain. And my guest today is Jay Jaxon. Hi,
Hey.
Jay.
How are you? How's everybody?
I'm very good. How are you? So Jay is the Vice President of media operation at BBC Studios.
Correct.
And welcome back. He is actually a grad of Full Sail from 96, I would
96.
Yes.
Recording arts.
From the recording arts. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, and for you taking the time to come to Orlando and sit down with us to talk about your industry and how tech is changing that industry. I really appreciate that. I'm grateful for your time. So Jay, how about you introduce yourself to our audience and talk about your background. How did you get from graduating from recording arts in 96 all the way to now being a vice president at BBC Studios?
So, 96 I graduated from the audio recording art school, and like every other graduate here, you're trying to figure out your way through the roads, and did some freelance and sound reinforcement, DJ, all kinds of jobs, probably, watching dishes in restaurants too. That's part of everything that we do. And eventually, I connected with some of the guys that went with me to the school, because we kept in touch, we kept that network.
Okay.
We decided, they reached out to me with opportunities for actually Discovery Channel.
Okay.
And they're like, listen, they're looking for audio guys here. Yeah, I think you should check it out. So I went to the interview, passed the interview, and I ended up working for Discovery Channel as an audio guy over there. At that time, it was called Audio Layback, the position. So it was my first position in the audio industry. And, in time, I moved through the roads there, and I ended up moving more into operations.
Okay.
Then I moved into media processing. Then I went to media asset management, and then I went back right to technology as a technical advisor. And through time, from those opportunities, I got another job with another company, Digital Latin America.
Okay.
Director, it was distribution, I think it was at that time. It's been quite some time. So I had the opportunity to work with OTT platforms. At the time they have their own platform, and we have some work with America Mobile and all that for the it's kind of like a Netflix, so you won't see it like that. And then I worked. Once I moved from there, that gave me that experience into the OTT and VOD. And then I moved to BBC. I got hired as director of operations and we have our Latin America channels, linear channels. So I went right back to television.
Okay.
And somehow their, business channels change. We start delivering to all this video on demand platforms and all this. And from there, I got into the media distribution, and this is what mostly we do today. My main responsibility is LATAM. I still deal with the sales and distribution in LATAM, and then I work with the global team in reshaping the supply chain for the future.
So your job title is media operation, and then when I remember when we had meetings this month, a couple of weeks ago, you kept talking about your expertise is really into global media supply chain. And I was like, okay, well, I know what supply chain is, and then global media, but like the whole concept of it was very difficult for me until you explained it. So before we go deep into what is it exactly that the stages and how technology is changing these different stages and what kind of tools and all these new things that we're seeing today in the way TV is working, I would love for you to explain what is global media supply chain, first of all.
Think of it, we mentioned before, is we're doing mass production, at that point, it's how we distribute these shows, this beautiful content that some creative put together.
Okay.
How we get it into our final destination, and we allow everybody to have the same experience across different platforms across the world, and how we adapt that content also to everything that is happening today with technology.
Okay.
That's probably the simplest way. Think of it as a conveyor belt. Show comes in, we get all the materials that we need for this. It goes through the process, maybe some transcoding, maybe metadata. We gotta probably do some work on it. Then it goes back to the delivery stage where we gotta get the connections right, make sure everything is secure, and get it to the final destination on time by deadlines, obviously, because everything is about deadlines these days.
Of course. And then when we're getting it to the final destination, one thing I know we talked about is that also it depends on what type of, how to say it? I mean, that destination is. Is it a linear TV? Is it like the streaming platform and so on, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that point is this is that part that you create. We have to create different versions probably for different mediums, and how it also will base on the specs of the final destination also, and you got to create that version that goes with that, especially nowadays where everything is interconnected. The other day, for the final user, you're thinking, oh yeah, I'm watching my content in my TV, and then I want to move and watch it. We were talking about that earlier. I want to watch it in my phone later on. So how we make sure all is something that works for all those mediums. So that's one of our main tasks that we do. And then think about globally. You got to consider also localization and access services and regulations. Also is something that you have to have in consideration. For those audio guys, loudness level is the thing. Everywhere.
So having all these different stages in the global media supply chain, can we talk about some of the tools and services that are offered at the stages? So what is it exactly that we're talking about? How is that data transferred or changed? What kind of services that we need to provide so that by the time it gets to that destination, it's in the format you're looking for?
Yeah, there's always, when you deal with media, this is probably best practices and most common use. You got to work on the transcoding, which means what kind of flavor of profile you're gonna get in that final video. And that will vary, and what type of compression you're gonna be using, and you need systems that can provide those services, transcoding services into those different formats. Think about you have your music library. I know everybody's on Spotify, but those like me that still keep music around, if you try to take a WAV file, it's a big file.
Okay.
And you probably don't have enough space on your computer. You want to keep those files, or you want to send them through email. So what you do, you compress those files. You can create an MP3, a .mov, whatever it is,
yes.
And that's how you probably send that file through your email, or keep it in your computer for listening to music at your house or whatever is that. So it's kind of like the same thing that we do with our assets. We find that profile that fits in, and we send it to the destination.
Okay. And then, so when we're talking about the destination, one thing we always need to keep in mind, especially for you working at BBC Studios, which is a global company, so you're not only focusing on the US market, you work on LATAM, you work in Europe, you work in the Middle East, and so on. All these countries have different, how to say it, technological differences,
Yes.
like technological disparities. And for you, I would think, and of course, I mean, we talked about this, is that you need to keep always in mind that, because that will affect the way your, whether it's your file, whether it's your show, whether it's your video, how it is not only it's produced, but it's broadcasted there, and how it is affected from a technological perspective aspect.
Yeah. So basically, with that, is so much. We're getting so much better these days.
Okay.
You know, you talked to me about 5 years ago. Yeah, I'll be worried about internet services in some countries.
Okay.
You know, that was a thing. Nowadays, it's completely different. You know, we barely have those issues anymore. It's more about what fit into that platform. But to that, you got to consider localization, and that's when it gets tricky. You know, because something that we mentioned that is important is to take that. We want everybody to have the same experience.
Of course, yes.
Obviously, BBC is a company that have a reputation, and we got to be mindful of our values, of our core values as a company, and that's something, you know, we produce content factual. We need to make sure that it's factual. It is what it is. We produce entertainment as well, and that entertainment is expected to be at a certain quality, you know, considering all places in the world, basically. Okay. You know, making sure that it gets it there and it's taken the right way from everybody, you know. And localization is a very important part, because we want everybody to have the same experience, and making sure that if it's in your language, you can enjoy it the same way as the original language.
Original language it was produced
It was produced, yes. And that's so important. You know, make sure your closed captioning matches what has been spoken in the video, and all that. You know, it's a whole experience that you gotta have.
It's interesting because of course, I'm not going to be naming streaming platforms or anything, but sometimes, especially when you're watching international shows, or specifically for me, I speak other languages, and then I see like the way it's translated. You know that it's an American show, for example, and it's translated into a different language, but I know for a fact it's not exactly what was meant to be said there. So I, as a receiver, as a user of these things, we talked about user experience earlier, is that you want to make sure that the users are really receiving that product in the same way. They're having a good user experience. They're enjoying that product.
It's called the adaptation process, and we want to keep in context everything. When you move from language to language, or localization to localization, you know, because even people think about localization as language, but it's not language only. Because if you think about it, if we're gonna release a program in the US, it's in English. If we're gonna release a program in UK, it's in English. But you have to have different considerations when you're creating those versions for those different places. That's true. So it's not.
Can you talk about the considerations you're talking about here?
No, well, it could be cultural. Okay. You know, it's just something as simple as maintaining things on context. You know, sometimes we use certain words here that probably UK is different, and you're trying to make a joke here using the same words as they use in UK, and the delivery is just not going to be the same. So how we keep that going, you know, how we keep that experience equal for everybody. So it takes work to do that and to get it right.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So television has seen rapid technological advancements. I mean, we're talking about different types of technology used at a certain level. I know you're going to be talking later on about how it's used from a supply chain perspective. But for me, even from a content perspective, there's lots of technology that's being used there. So how do content creators and industry professionals stay adaptable with all this emerging technologies? I mean, we're seeing technology evolving on a daily basis. We're barely keeping track of what's happening. Tools, especially now with the evolution of AI, I mean, like the number of tools that are being developed on a daily basis it's unbelievable.
Yep.
So, for your industry, how are you guys keeping track? I know you are more on the supply chain,
Yeah.
but I mean, you deal with content creators, you deal with industry experts, and you know that, of course, probably from meetings that you're having, you are meeting with people who are now using that technology or trying to keep track of that technology and so on. So,
And that's exactly because listen, it's almost impossible to keep up with technology these days. This conversation probably going to be obsolete in about 2 months. we're gonna have to do another one.
That's true.
But listen, being in connection with the industry is so important. You know,
Thank you. Yes.
Social events. You know, you might see it as sometimes I don't want to do that. No, you have to be there. You have to be in the conversation.
Are you talking about conferences specifically?
Conferences, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, conference. There's plenty of forums and conferences. For me, LinkedIn is a very good tool to connect with people.
That's true.
And
That's true.
I'm not putting a plug here or anything like that, but it's reality. It's tools that we use. So you know, and there's different places that you go, conferences and that kind of stuff that I think is they're great places to go and get information. You know, talk to your peers. You know, everybody's so nice across the industry. When you have a question, you'll be surprised just by reaching out. Just by reaching out at people in the industry, how open they will be to give you information and to help you out. Everybody's so cool in this industry.
And probably also from, I'm thinking from a startup perspective, when they're talking to industry experts or they're talking to you, they are kind of aware of a problem that you guys maybe are experiencing. I'm not talking about BBC Studios. I'm talking about your industry in general. They learn as they're socializing or going to these conferences, they're learning about a problem that that industry is facing. And then this is how startups come. They're trying to solve that problem. They develop a new product. They know what kind of technology is happening. And then that whole collaboration and partnership that exists between the industry experts, startups, content creators, and so on is very important for your industry.
Yeah, I think that keeping that communication, you know, that communication lines open. And listen, you think you had the challenge is just yours. No, there's a good chance that everybody have the same challenge.
Exactly, I agree with that.
You know, we were talking about field dominance earlier, and we did a bunch of stuff back in my days at Discovery to solve field dominance, coming to talk to some friends of other companies. There you go. We all have the same problems, and we figure out how to solve the problems.
Yeah.
And some of the solutions are pretty much the same ones, you know. And I think in terms sometimes is using your creativity. I've been in situations where some products, you know, I read about a product and sometimes it triggers an idea and you're like, I wonder, well, this works this way. You know what? Maybe it works for this. And you call the company and let's do some experiments and finally it works. And there you go. You got something that you weren't expecting. So ideas come from everywhere, you know, and I think we all go through the same challenges. And I think that's why that communication is so important in the industry.
That's great. So talking about technology, I mean, when we're talking about emerging technologies, we're talking about so many different technologies that, especially in your industry, it's being used in different levels or stages, I would say. So how is technology being harnessed to create more interactive and immersive television experiences? And what kind of further innovation you're expecting to see in that industry or in that realm?
Well, it's getting. I think it's that link between everybody.
Okay.
You know, is that metadata that is out there. Is we talk about there's technologies with face recognition, and you know, it's recognize the face and it can separate those frames and connect you to other platforms that will give you more information. Maybe you want to know who that artist is or what other movies have happened. And you just got to click there, it will take you to the other. And those connections are established through metadata, all these descriptions that are running behind the scenes that sometimes we don't see.
Yeah.
and keywords and all that kind of stuff. So, and that's that, all those interconnections. And now there's a lot of, back in the day, they was not that important, but now metadata is probably a very valuable asset, I will say, for anything. And people are connecting more. The different companies are connecting those things more. And to allow us to have that experience, to jump from one place to another, to find more information, to promote those materials differently. We talk about how some of these platforms have different aspect ratios and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, so can you talk about that specifically? Because, we were talking about it today, and then sometimes when we're talking about TV, we always think as if you're regular TV at home. Yeah. You don't think about other aspects of it, like especially if you're producing a show, you're going to have to maybe use it for marketing at the same time, and then that's completely a different ratio.
Yeah, and it's exactly the aspect ratio there is completely different sometimes, and so you do need to. This is part of that transformation process, no, and understanding what's the final destination. So sometimes you gotta get that material. What works from here. Yeah, what we can use from here without losing, and to a conversion that works, so we can put it in other platforms. How we share that content is important. Yeah. And I'm sure in the future that will change, and is changing the way they shoot these videos and this material immensely, because you got to be conscious of all the platforms that is going to.
Yeah. So earlier, the example you gave is that, for example, you have a show that's being produced for TV or for theater. Yeah. So that's an aspect ratio, but then you're going to have to market that show, and then you're using Instagram, it needs to be on your phone or on your tablet. So now we're dealing with a completely different way we're delivering that.
Yeah, and that's when those tools and listen, that going back to you mentioning the problem with the challenge with how we communicate with other industries and this and that. Listen, somebody had that problem, and guess what? There might be a solution out there. Somebody already came with a solution that is a preset that everybody can use, and we all know that, okay, you pass it through this transcoding process or this equipment, this workflow, and it's going to come out in the right aspect ratio how we want it, And AI plays a huge role on it nowadays, because you know what? You can probably, there's solutions out there that recognize movement and the panning of the image and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to play with it out there,
Yeah. For me, when I was, as I'm learning more from you, and thank you for explaining this whole thing to me, because television, there are some things that you do on a regular basis, but you don't really realize that it's the same industry, and the way it's delivered is completely different. So when I was thinking about technology, the first thing that I thought about, I'm like, okay, well, I know that, for example, when you go to the movie theater, or even on TV, some shows you can watch them in VR. Everything is available to you through VR. So probably that's part of the production as well, right? As they're developing that show, they need to add extra information to create the VR experience, right?
They're probably, I'm not that close to that part of virtual reality, but I can tell you from experience, when you create a show, you definitely have to keep in mind what are the different versions. When we were earlier, we were talking to the audio team over there, and part of the questions that I was asking them, it was because of that. How you make sure if something is stereo, you gotta prep the stereo version. You gotta prep the 5.1 version. Yeah. Same with the video. We actually in DLA we play around with 3D content at that time. Okay. So we had to prepare the shows. It was a different preparation. It was a different type of files that you have to prep and put together to deliver to the different platforms. Mm-hmm.
Another way to use technology is gamification. We see how the user experience of shows now is changing, where they're adding challenges on live or through the TV. They're adding rewards. They're adding ways how to interact with the show that you're watching. Yeah, through hyperlinks.
That goes back to all that metadata, all those everything is interconnected, and and a lot of this. If you think about those big brands, it's not just a movie. Mm-hmm. It's the movie, the TV series, the video game, and everything is part of that universe and interconnected. So we need to make sure there's consistency on there.
Yeah. In the past, I know that now, especially with the metaverse, you have so many users who can watch a movie together or actually join a concert live, having the artist performing live in a virtual space, and then you have these thousands and thousands of users attending that concert and having a certain view, being even sometimes on stage with the artist. So it's interesting how technology is completely changing the way we interact with, well, back, I would say, 15 years ago, it was a linear TV. You cannot really interact with that thing. And like now, it's completely different.
Yeah, we did some experiments back in the day with that and Twitter and whatnot and all the solutions that were there at the time. But yeah, it have changed everything. And I'm telling you, you sit down on your TV. I do it at my house. I'm sitting there with the remote, and I'm doing 20 things at the same time sometimes, and it's part of the experience, you're looking at the actors, you're seeing what's up. There's other movies like this one, your choices and all that kind of stuff. And that's so important. That's part of that experience.
Yeah, yeah. So when we're talking about data, or I would say products or movies or packages transferred, we're always, from a technological perspective, we're always thinking about cyber security threats, cyber threats. There are always, there is always that risk of cyber attacks. So what is the industry or what kind of measures are in place to protect the products, or to make sure that we're ensuring the resilience of the industry against cyber attacks or cyber threats?
Well, if you think about it, so first of all, that's a product. We need to make sure it's protected.
Okay.
How many of us hate when you tell them the end of the movie? You don't want that. You don't want to know that. So it's part of also maintaining that experience at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Protecting this content. I will tell you, it's so important to be in close communication with. Surround yourself with people that know. First of all, So these IT guys, you might not like them at times, but they're your greatest ally when it comes down to that. So keep close communication with them. Follow their directives and their because they're only helping you. They're not here to stop.
That's true. Thank you so much for saying that. Sometimes people don't understand that the IT and cyber people are really there to help you and help your product.
Yeah. And the second, we will always have the human factor on it. So there's always going to be some human hand touching on it. So policies are so important, having the proper policies, when you're working with content and everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing with this is so important at that point,
Yeah. I
would say those are the two main things that have to do. And then you can talk about technology. There's all kinds of technology out there, There's technology for forensic marking and all that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff that there's out there that help, but this is why we want to hang out with the IT guys, no?
Yes, you do. So talking about the technology, and one aspect we talked about earlier, you speak Spanish and probably other languages. I speak multiple languages, is localization. And I know that for a fact, and now especially with the revolution of AI, there are so many tools and AI tools that are helping with the localization. But then how or what kind of challenges and opportunities arise in the localization process? One thing that comes to my mind is dialects. Spanish, probably in the Caribbean, is not the same thing as Spanish in Spain. Portuguese is not like Portuguese of Portugal. It's not the same as in Brazil. French in France is not the same thing as in Canada and other countries. And I mean, I can go through like all these different languages and kind of the different dialects that can change the way things are understood. So using AI there, yes, it makes things fast, quick. I would say also it helps you to scale, but then there is a whole challenge that comes with that as well.
Yeah, I think AI as a rule for the most part is a great help when it's just you mentioned scale. That's actually something really positive about it. Um, at the end of the day, we gotta consider the solutions, and you are always gonna need a human hand to tweak that
That's
to
true.
the right place. So I think at this moment in time, probably we're closer to be using hybrid solutions in that sense that help us to increase the volumes. I think that's the right way. If you ask me, in my opinion, I think that's the right way to go about this. And when it comes to AI, but there's so many new tools these days, and it's amazing all the stuff. You go to the conferences and they have so many fun toys that you just want. Ooh, I want that.
Well, it's interesting because also in different conferences, when it comes to technology, also like you have AI in everything. At this point, it's like, okay, and it's funny. Even though with the evolution of AI, you still hear that people are very worried about AI is going to steal my job, AI is replacing that job. Yeah. And I mean, we did so many episodes of Tech Tuesday where we're trying to educate everyone about AI is not stealing your job, but exactly what you said, it's going to be a hybrid approach. If you can explain more of that.
Listen, the best advice that I can give at the moment, it will be you need to be comfortable getting into this. Jobs will change. They're not gonna go away. They will change. My first job was cutting tape.
Yeah.
And reel to reel and putting leader tape. One of my first jobs in the industry. And listen, if anybody needs somebody, just let me know. I can do that.
Well, look at you now. Like, do you think it's like this is still a human or like something that a person would do? Like, probably there are tools that do that.
Exactly. And that job doesn't exist anymore. We move on from those days. And you know what? I move on with the business in a different direction. And I think that's exactly what everybody needs to do. It's not going to take jobs away. I think we just need to move with the technology and see. If anything, it will give opportunity to scale.
I agree.
The business.
Yeah.
We just need to change our approach and get comfortable with being a little bit uncomfortable.
I agree with that. It's funny sometimes when we're talking about AI and the evolution of AI, I would say AI is not going to steal your job, but a person knowing how to use the AI tools will steal your job because that person evolved with the industry, evolved with everything that exists. But if you stay just limited and very worried and very scared about evolving, then of course, the world is moving on.
And it's moving so fast, even for me, when I start in this business, I start as an audio engineer and I have evolved with the business and everything that is happening. And I continue learning. If you ask me, I probably wouldn't be able to have this conversation 2 years ago. Because things have changed so fast and everything have changed so dramatically that now have a knowledge that I didn't have 2 years ago. And that's so important, keeping yourself up to date with everything that is going on. Continuing education, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Thank you so much. Yes. Sometimes people think that, because they are good at a certain task, that's it, they know it and they're done. But as you said, we all keep learning. Continuing education is very important because that's the only way. I mean, for me, I'm just going to use myself. I was completely clueless about TV and the industry and so on. But I've been reading so much about it and talking to you. What a better way to learn than talking to an expert like you that is really trying to bring things down to me so that I can understand them from a technological perspective in my case.
Well, maybe I was trying to bring down to my level so I can understand. Sometimes I'm talking to these engineers and you're just like, okay, now translate. But it's fun, man. It's an amazing experience. Now, like you said, everything moves super fast. We gotta enjoy it, because we're part of history as we go.
That's true.
We're writing history.
I like the way you think, Jay. So let's go back to AI. Yes. I know, I don't want to make it as an AI episode, but I know that AI is changing the industry so much. So how are AI algorithms currently reshaping viewer experience through personalized content recommendations? What is in your opinion, kind of the next frontier for AI in enhancing audience engagement?
There's so much happening at the moment. I can tell you, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Metadata is probably one of those things that are driving everything.
Yes.
Now we got, thanks to that metadata, we can do what they call machine learning and enhance that knowledge and establish proper parameters to provide solutions with that from AI. That's basically what is AI in a nutshell. They learn from those parameters
Of
and
course,
create
yes.
something that can make decisions based on those parameters.
Yeah, so based on the user preferences, probably if they're
Exactly.
watching a certain show on Netflix or any other, so the AI is learning from the preferences or the time they're really watching TV and other things that come, localization and so on, and then from there, then as you said, learning and then starting delivering, making decisions on what shows and what things to happen.
Exactly. I always know when somebody got into my profile in my house. I can tell you
Really?
that.
Okay, interesting.
Who was here? Why I have those shows there? That's not me. No, but I think AI has been here for a long time. Probably.
Of course, yeah.
What? I don't know. 15 years, over 15 years probably. It's been foundational on most of the solutions that we're using these days.
Yes.
And now through time there's so much data and systems have learned how to use that data to provide a better experience for everybody. The opportunity to do all these fun things. Have your profile, see what's up with that, and then add all the add-ins because that add other capabilities. And it might not seem like a big thing because for me it's not. I'm more old school, but you can add your picture on your profile. You can do, and those things help you personalize and experience any experience that you might be having. And this is all part of this new world that we're living, and not only that, but if you think about channels, there's solutions out there that can provide commercial opportunities, like a insert of commercial. Obviously, it's a whole conversation about legal and all that kind of stuff with that, but there's a lot of opportunities in the business, or even to if everybody is a fan of Star Wars, everybody will remember the Gene guy from The Mandalorian. Why there's somebody in jeans sitting back there, and then the week after the guy was not there anymore. So you use all these tools for that type of enhancement, and recognizing movements and finding opportunities. Think about producer. It can recognize. You can go into a database and type something. I want to do a promo about happy people. They put happy people on this series. You get all this content. Back in the day, you get your assistant to sit down endless hours there to tag stuff, and now that assistant can be doing other more amazing things at that point, more involved things in the production. So it's I think the tools are reshaping everything that we do, and moving the business faster. Content comes out, and the amounts of content that is out there, sometimes it blows my mind how much content people move and people watch, consume in so many different platforms.
Yeah, for me, it's like how much content they're producing.
Yeah.
My God, because at this point, you're not talking only anyone can produce content at this point, given all these platforms that exist.
Yeah.
Anyone can do that. Part of technology as well as automation. And automation is, of course, yes, we talked about AI and so on, but automation is another process where it is becoming very prevalent in the industry. And it's revolutionizing the workflows.
Yep.
So let's talk about production and delivery phases. How is automation affecting those stages, delivery and production? And what are some of the benefits and challenges that you see there?
I think automation's been here for a while.
Of course.
I'll go back to my discovery days. All the playlists were automated, and everything runs. Nowadays, I think it helps us to move the process more efficient, from one step to the other. From the point of ingest, you can do QC and you can do transcoding and you can prepare this asset, know where the asset is and all that. And those processes can happen in the background so we can concentrate on moving bigger volumes in the supply chain, And I think if you ask me, that's a huge advantage of it. On the same side is, it's highly dependent on parameters. So So sometimes you gotta have that opportunity because new business lines come out of sometimes that experiment that you did that day. So you have to have some flexibility there, so you can poke a hole in the system and do something different
Yes,
to it,
yes,
because
yes.
that might become the next. Then at that
The
point,
next thing.
yeah. Now we got to create automation for that.
So, our audience, the students, the industry experts that are listening to you today, they're not only coming from the film industry or TV industry or from the audio industry or the programs, the recording arts programs here at Full Sail. We have also emerging technology students. And one thing talking to you today is that actually your industry touches so many different skills. Like there are so many, sometimes people don't necessarily think about the opportunities that exist in an industry like television and global media supply chain. So I wanted you to kind of talk about what kind of skills you think are becoming very crucial in your industry, and then one other thing for me specifically, if you're okay with it, what advice do you have to our students or to our graduates who are looking for jobs, and specifically if you can tell that story about how you took that opportunity.
Yeah, well, which one? Many. So
When
this.
you graduated on the day of
Oh,
your
that
graduation.
one.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because I want. Sometimes students don't understand that, not. I wouldn't say all students. No, sometimes they need to hear it from someone else. Someone like you, who is now the vice president of operations at BBC Studios, to understand what you went through to get there. It was not an easy journey for you.
Oh no, I think the first thing that I'm gonna tell everybody, you can study, you can, whatever is your passion, go for it. Because that helps to fuel this energy to move you forward. You need to be passionate about what you do. You need to be resilient because not every day is going to be easy. If you tell me about the skills, I'm not going to talk about specific skills, but what I'm going to tell you is you need to be adaptable.
Okay.
I'm an audio guy that ended up working in supply chain. If I was not adaptable, I would have a huge problem jumping into new opportunities.
Okay.
And going back to your question, opportunities come from anywhere.
Yes.
And you never know. As a matter of fact, sometimes, when there's a problem or something that you really hate, that's an opportunity. And if you don't have the view to see it as that will hinder your growth, because it is sometimes it's just not working. Okay, great. Let's think about how we're gonna solve this, and that's what get you there.
Problem solving.
I was sitting the day of my graduation in Full Sail. I was sitting. I got out of my graduation, and from placement, they call me and they're like, "Listen, we have an internship." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm a kid, I'm probably 25 years old at that time, something like that. And I'm sitting there, and I sit down there waiting for my job interview, and come this kid coming out of the room, and he's like, "Listen, we're gonna move this into PG rating now.
No big. No.
Listen, fuck this. These people just want to make you work for no money and this and that, And I'm like, I just stay sitting. I'm like, what happened there? I don't know. So I go in the room. There's this guy sitting there at the other side. Peter, amazing guy, looking all mean, and he's just with a paper, and he just goes like, "So this is your resume. I'm gonna put it very simple with you. This is gonna be 2 weeks. You're not getting paid. There's no chance for you to get a job. You're only gonna get experience, if anything. Are you okay with that?" And I'm like, "Well, I have nothing else better to do, I guess." Yeah. So I went into my 2-week internship, and I managed to mess up pretty much everything that I could have messed up there. I can tell you all the stories at some point. But from that experience, what came was a relationship that till this day today, I still getting clients from that experience. I'm still working from people that I met there, and not only has been how do you call it profitable, but the opportunity to travel through with these specific companies and projects through the United States, meet people in different places, and the connections that I have made through that experience have been amazing. And you know what? And that guy gave me that chance. You know, it's always a story that I always keep with me because it was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
You know.
Bottom line, don't ever kind of underestimate anything, or don't ever say that this is not a good opportunity. They're not going to pay me. You never know who you'd be meeting. You never know what kind of experience you're going to have. You never know what skills you're going to develop from an opportunity like this, or what doors are going to be open to you.
And I think that's very important. Transferable skills is a word for me. You know.
Yeah. So this morning we were talking about, I don't remember if it was at BBC or at Discovery Channel, when they were trying, or maybe it was a different different institution, but you were saying about how they had this board, I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher it at this point, but like they had no idea what it was, and it was because your audio and the skills that you
yes. Yeah, well, well, there's a couple experiences that I had because we were looking at a tape, and if when you go from a lower quality tape to a higher quality, you're gonna get something. This is for new people that are getting into this. It's called head switching. It's that little lines on the bottom that looks like the tape was bended at some point, and that's when you move from one quality to another. And I'm in the room, there's like 5 people looking at this. They have no idea what it is, and I just look. I'm like, that's head switch. And they're like, how the hell you knew this? And it's because you've been through so many experiences through your life, and you carry that. Whatever knowledge you carry, keep it on, you know, because through the experience that I told you before, through those shows, it was corporate shows. You sit down to listen to salespeople talk about business. And I sat down for all hours. What I got from that was how to connect the technology part with the sales part, and how to communicate with them. And it's something that till this day I carry, and I have used that so much in all aspects of the industry, because there's certain principles that are not going to change, you know. So we got to take care of those opportunities. Even if it was 20 years ago, you're still going to be, there's going to be that one opportunity
that's going to change your life. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking at the time, I want to give some time to our audience to ask questions. And I see there are so many questions, so I'm going to stop my questions to give them the chance to get answers for their questions. So the first question is, how does the global media change impact today's tech in terms of evolution?
Global media. Well, I'm going to take that as how we're distributing our content across the world. You know,
I think that's what they're talking about.
We talk earlier. You know, now the preparation is going to be different. You know, and I will say, you know, in my opinion, you know, I think you got to prepare those producers to be able to handle all those different requirements that are going to happen down the line. You know, because if they support those requirements, means that your content is going to get to new places and to different places, you know, and it's going to be better promoted, because everything is changing. You know, the way we consume media, the way media is promoted is completely different in these days. So I would say that's probably something that we got to keep our eye, you know, what formats and all that at global level.
Global. Okay, well, thank you for that. The next question, will AI be used in the process of localization of TV, such as you mentioned earlier, different languages, cultures, etc.? Wouldn't AI be a great tool to bridge the gap of content for each user?
Well, it is there already. There's tools out there that do that, you know. I had the opportunity to see some of those tools, and there's different approaches to it. I think eventually we'll get to a point. I think we're, you know, but definitely the tools are out there, and they're being used in many companies. And this probably, at this point, it will depend on what is the use. There is opportunities for AI actually currently
Of course.
to be used in
Yeah.
that way. It's just it will depend.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is with the rise of streaming platforms and digital distribution, how has BBC Studios adapted its content distribution strategies to stay relevant in the changing media ecosystem?
Great question. So no, it's listen, it's constant change. We are evolving. You know, the work that we did 4 years ago is not the work that we're doing 2 years ago, and it's not the work that we're doing today. We're constantly changing the supply chain. We're constantly changing the requirements. We're constantly trying to find out solutions how to deal with our catalogs. You know, it never ends. It is always there. You know, so if I'm gonna tell you how it has changed, you know, is we go back to what we were talking before. Is there's different mediums, there's different final destinations that we can go now, different formats, and we constantly need to accommodate for those needs in the business. You know, new metadata requirements and all that fun stuff that goes with that. You know, now it's a component deliverable world. Everything is component. You know, where you have one video with a lot of assets that will complement that video. You know, and you know, it's just, and there's different flavors of that. You know, but in concept is the same. So I think that's one of the biggest changes, I will say. How we see how we see our packages that we deliver.
Okay. Next question. In managing media operations, how do you prioritize workflow optimization and have any specific technologies or tools significantly improved efficiency?
Prioritize workflow optimization. So that's constant. You know, we're gonna we're gonna have that need. There's always volumes to meet. You know, so we use tools like automation. You know, like everybody else is automation. AI is at the forefront of these things right now. So cloud solutions. You know.
Yeah, talking about cloud solutions, I know that like I had a question here, but like I had to skip it because of the time. Cloud is becoming like really huge right now in the industry right now.
Oh, I want to say, yeah. Well, I want to say in the last few years, everybody's getting comfortable with it. You know, I will say last 5-6 years, everybody's getting comfortable. I think it's amazing the way we interconnect to our vendors and we collaborate with different groups through the cloud and the opportunities that offers in regards. You know, you can have an editor in their house working. You know, so you can have the best editor that you can have, and you don't have to fly that person, or you can book it in a way that works. You know, so it's just that the level of collaboration that is happening with the cloud is amazing.
And then also scalability as well.
And that was my other point.
Okay,
it was going to be how much you can scale, because back in the day, okay, we need more computers. We gotta build a new building, and that building is gonna have computers, or you gotta add this amount of racks and this and that. Nowadays, it's just a click of a button to add your capacity, and you know you're gonna have the opportunity to scale depending on the business needs at that time.
Okay. So next question, looking ahead, what emerging trends or technologies do you anticipate will have a significant impact on the media industries and on the media industry, and how is BBC Studios preparing for these changes?
I think it's not just a BBC Studios. I think it's
the whole
everybody.
industry. Yeah, it's the whole industry.
There is committees everywhere. You know, I go to the conventions and everybody talks about what emerging technologies are, where are the business opportunities. I can tell you a lot of this comes to us through the sales teams. You know, we have very, you know, and there's really good people there that come with great ideas, and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be fun, and you know, it challenges you, and that's what you want. You know, so there's a lot happening. I think it's coming from different places, but I wouldn't just limit that just to the BBC. The entire world is changing.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, this generation also is completely different from our generation. So, and looking at my daughters, and probably you have the same experience, is that things are changing. The receiver is changing. That user is changing, and the technology is evolving so much so that we're delivering that content differently, and then all like the industry has no other choice but to adapt to that.
Yep.
And
Well, it's also think about music, how it have changed. I see how my son listens to music, and it's interesting. Back in the day, you think about a radio version, it was 5 minutes. Now it's 3 minutes or 2 minutes and a half. And the way the structure the song is to pick on those metadata and algorithms.
yes,
So
yes.
so important to keep up to date with everything that is happening in technology, because believe it or not, it will impact you. It impacts creativity, and you need to be in sync.
Yeah.
You want your product out there, you need to be in sync.
You need to take advantage of the technology that exists. Yes. Okay. The next question. What made you choose Full Sail in '96 as university to study?
It was that little yellow envelope that I received from my house one day.
Oh, well, tell me about that. We did not talk about this. Now I want to hear this.
No, back in the day, those who's been here for a long time know what I'm talking about. All the Full Sail envelopes, for some reason, everything was yellow, bright yellow. You knew you were getting a full letter. Well, I was in the... Listen, I went to school. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I went to school there, and I was a DJ for a while, and I decided, you know what, I like sound, and you know what, I always been an operations person at heart. I didn't know this at that time.
Okay.
So I wanted to work with speakers and sound and that kind of stuff, and I went, and yep, they did not have that available. That's me in a very interesting 7-year loop, but finally. I'm in a show, and I was looking and doing research on where I could go and study sound engineering and how you get into that business, And I was in an event doing sound for like a little kids game, and one of the parents came, and he was an audio engineer. He talked to me, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I always wanted to do this, but I'm do all this and that." And he left that yellow envelope near my board.
Oh.
That yellow envelope stayed on my board for probably God knows how long. One day I opened the case, I'm looking at it, I'm like, what? Oh, this looks cool. Let me just call. And I gave a call, scheduled a visit. I was super impressed at that time. And nothing to do with these days, man. My mind has been blown this today. But that time, it blew my mind. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. And I came, and listen, all the experience that I got here has been put to good use. I can tell you that. And not only was the knowledge that I acquired from here, but I think the big part of this was I learned how to use that knowledge. You learn how to adapt and use that knowledge in the future, and I carry a lot of that. A lot of... I'm probably going to get in trouble for copywriting, but I'm going to be honest. And a lot of manuals that I did back in the day, I did use a lot of content from the books here, from Full Sail.
Okay, we're not going to get in trouble. Okay, next question. I'm not sure what path I want to take in my career with my IT degree after graduation, but I have an interest in front-end development or web design. What would be the best path or internships to get?
Well, sorry, I was reading the question. So your interest will be web design, and listen, companies now, all the products are put together. You think about any company, you need all the parts of the company. Don't think yourself of I do websites or I do this and that, and limit yourself on that. You go to any company, they need marketing, they need this. Probably I would say how do you call it, an agency? Companies use a lot of outside services, and we use a lot of agencies to build a lot of the content, in the industry, to build all that content. So that's a great place to start, and there's a lot of those around, you know.
I would say to reply to this, because IT and web are under emerging technologies. IT is used in everything. If you take Netflix, for example, Netflix has that web design front end development, because when you go into I'm taking Netflix just as an example, by the way, so I'm not doing any kind of marketing for Netflix, but you have all these shows by category and so on. You have your profile, the user profile, all the information, and you have the backend development where the databases is you have all the different databases of information and shows and movies and so on, and then the IT is really where you're storing that on the cloud. So I'm just giving you the example of Netflix and TV in this sense, but you heard Jay talking, it's like everything is on the cloud right now. So I would think about it that way. And then don't be only, I know you, as you said, you're interested in web development and front-end development, web design, front-end development. But I would say also look at all the other industries. Everything is using cloud right now. Gaming, actually, the big studios, they need IT engineers because they're hosting their games on the cloud, or they have the servers and so on. So there are so many, everything or most of the things require the cloud right now. So your IT degree will come in hand there. I would say you feel free to reach out to me or reach out to a program director, Sean Fallon, or the department chairs, and even the instructors. They will all help you with that. But please feel free to reach out to us. Okay, last question. What is a highly desired skill for Full Sail graduates to have if they want to work at BBC Studios?
I think, well, obviously, with your knowledge, but I think it's very important when you walk into any job interview. I'm going to speak with myself because it's something that I pick when I'm doing job interviews. For me, it's important to have a person that I can work with, personable, how that person is going to understand the culture, because depending on the culture is how you're going to behave in that company. When you're applying to any job, what I will tell everybody is do your research, find out about that company, find out about that culture.
Yes, interpersonal skills, soft skills.
Yes, that's so important, because I have situations where I have hired people that probably didn't have the skills look for the position, and I'm like, it just gave me a good vibe when I talked to that person. I'm like, you know what, this is the person that I need on the job, and I'm gonna put that person on the job, and it worked out. It worked out because I'm one that I'm here from a different background, so I understand that not everybody's gonna have the different background, and you gotta start somewhere. If you have a dream, you just follow it, and you go for it. And sometimes, it's just stay on target. I guess the best way to put it. You go after that and keep working at it and find the other door. The most important thing, I think, is that do your research before you go in. Know a little bit of history about that company and why they are the way they are. Because when they design if I'm designing a job interview, there's a lot of that in it. Because we need somebody to fit with the company, have the knowledge, and it can fit the culture of that company.
And network. It's very important that you network as well. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for this amazing episode. I really enjoyed it. And again, I'm grateful for your time. I hope you had a good time with us. I hope you guys enjoyed our episode. You can rewatch this on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. It will be available in a couple of minutes. Well, stay tuned for our next episode in February, and thank you very much for staying with us today. This is Dr. Haifa Maamar from Full Sail University. Have a good day.
Thank you.